Ever since I played Unpacking back in 2024, I feel like I've been vaguely on the hunt for games that hit a similar vibe for me. Not only do I crave more cosy games to enjoy in between longer, more intense ones, but also the way my brain is wired means that I am fairly invested in finding more experiences that let me live out my fantasies of things being neat and tidy, and as a parent of a 3-year-old, this is squarely in the realm of dreams for me. Enter Outpacked, then. Given its name and premise as a puzzle game based around packing stuff away, I simply knew I had to give it a try. You're listening to the almighty Backlog. I'm Ellie, and today's review is on Outpacked. Available to play on macOS and PC, this review is based on the PC version. Originally released in April of 2026, it's developed and published by Antikythera Games, and it's a puzzle game. How Long to Beat has an average playtime of about 2 hours. Right at the top, it's probably important to mention that Outpacked is a very different kind of game from Unpacking. The screenshots in this article should probably already clue you into that. In fact, as far as games featured on the blog go, it more closely resembles something like Invento. That's by no means intended as an idle comparison, given that both are tile games, but that's as far as it goes. Outpacked's brand of puzzling is more of a logic game. The premise of Outpacked is, and this again is not unlike many of the other puzzle games I've reviewed, quite sweet. I never knew how many puzzle games I'd find with cute framing narratives. At the outset of the game, we're introduced to Susan, a nerdy if somewhat scatterbrained scientist type, who declares that she needs the help of an expert luggage packer. It's a tough economy out there. You've got to find employment where you can, I suppose, and I guess it must work for you because there are a couple of other recurring characters who hire us as well. It is an odd bunch though, given that it includes a dog, a strange frog who lives in a cave and I think might be a wizard, and, in a stark return to normality, a musician. Each of them comes to you with a stack of items, a number of cases with limited space, and requirements regarding what they want packed away for that day. Were Outpacked a simple tile-fitting game, I'd probably have liked it, but where it gets to shine a bit is that it has a bit more going on. Namely, that it wants you to fulfill specific logical requirements as you pack items. Take the first stage, for example. In this introduction to Outpacked's mechanics, Susan asks for some food, some water, and her phone to be fitted into a 3x2 grid. On the surface, this is simple. We get given a selection of items to choose from, and hovering over them indicates how much they contribute towards hitting your goal for that level. However, when you mouse over her phone, you get told that it's a hot item due to its battery, which means it can't be a tile adjacent to a meltable item like a chocolate bar or chocolate chip cookie. This item logic is where Outpacked's real challenge lies. It's one thing to fit increasingly awkwardly shaped items into the given space, but they also have to match the individual constraints of each level. Electronics can't be adjacent to liquids, earphones must be paired with their phone or music player, fragile things must be next to something soft. The list of new constraints gets ever longer with each new level. This is the way in which Outpacked gets to grow and compound its difficulty. In fact, while often the space you get to fit items into gets more tricky to navigate, often the most fiendish levels are the ones with very few items but intensely picky constraints. What I especially enjoyed about Outpacked's use of this logical element, however, was how it was also done to tell internal level narratives. A few levels, for example, ask you to put food into frying pans or onto grills, which is a loose definition of container I give you, but this game makes it work beautifully. You can't just slap items in haphazardly though, as if you were some sort of amateur cook at a backdoor barbecue. Specific items must be grouped together, veggies with mushrooms, or meat on its own, for example. This makes a level of sense, and putting them together in the context the game presents gives it a greater sense of immersive narrative than simply presenting puzzles in a void. It's also used for some quiet background storytelling. One character, for example, needs all their clothes matched by colour or pattern, while another in a later level likes them more haphazardly mixed and matched. Every 7 levels, and the game, I should point out, is presented in 2 months' worth of days, with each day corresponding to our puzzle, Outpacked changes tack and gives you something a bit different to do. A couple of these are logic puzzles that involve arranging character icons in ways to satisfy their seating preferences, but the ones I really enjoyed were the jigsaws. I'm not usually that bothered by jigsaws in real life, but here they felt like a breath of fresh air, something gentle to break up the puzzles and act as a reward for getting through the increasingly tricky levels. It's something I feel I've not seen many indie puzzlers do before, but it's a structural decision that I think does a huge amount of positive work for Outpacked. In the end, Outpacked manages to combine all of the elements of a puzzle game that I like to see. It's built around a simple, well-explored premise that manages to be taxing without being obtuse. It's got a sweet framing narrative that gets explored over the course of the game's short runtime, and you all know by now that I'm a sucker for a good story. The decision to structure it with breaks was such a smart move that I'd really love to see more games of this type do. It's an easy recommend. The final score is 5 out of 7. Darn fine stuff, a game that doesn't quite make the top echelon of games, but sparkles regardless and holds the interest expertly. Do make the time to give this a play. This has been Ellie on the Almighty Backlog. You can support this project by reading the review over on thealmightybacklog.wordpress.com, or by listening to this pod review hosted on RSS and YouTube. Please feel free to follow me over on Mastodon, Blue Sky and/or Backlogged by following the links on the website. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can do so by donating via PayPal to thealmightybacklog@gmail.com, or by hitting the donate button on the blog. Thank you for listening, and have a lovely day.